B. Parallel to x-axis. C. Parallel to y-axis. D. Upward sloping from left to right. Number 2. The table that shows the quantity demanded and the price attached to each is called dash. A. Time schedule. B. Demand series. C. Demand schedule. D. Time series. And number 3. The point at which the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied is said to be dash. A. Meeting point. B. Equilibrium point. C. Middle point. D. None of the above. Number 4. A shift in demand or supply curve indicates dash. A. Exceptional demand or supply. B. Elasticity of demand or supply. C. Change in demand or supply. D. None of the above. Number 5. The upward sloping of supply curve from left to right shows the relationship between the supply and price is dash. A. Negative. B. Neutral. C. Multiple. D. Positive. Then let's see the answer to these questions. The answer to question A that says the normal demand curve is dash. The normal demand curve is downward sloping from left to right. That means option A is the correct answer. Number 2, the table that shows the quantity demanded and the price attached to each is called demand schedule, and that makes the option C to be the correct answer. Number 3, that says the point at which the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied is said to be the equilibrium point. That is option B. Equilibrium point is the correct answer. And number 4, a shift in demand or supply curve indicates change in demand or supply. When there is a shift in demand curve from one point to the other, whether increase or decrease, and the same thing with the supply, that means there is a change in demand. And the last one, the upward sloping of demand of supply curve from left to right shows the relationship between the supply and price is positive. That means option D is the correct answer. Elasticity of demand. When we take elasticity of demand, that means the degree to which the demand to which the demand reacts to the changes in price. We have both elasticity of demand and we have elasticity of supply. But in this case, we want to deal with that of demand at first. We have different type of elasticity of demand. The first one is price elasticity of demand. Then we have income elasticity of demand. And the last one we have cross price elasticity of demand. Let's take it one after the other. Price elasticity of demand. The price elasticity of demand for a product measures the responsiveness of demand to a change in price. The formula for calculating this elasticity of demand says the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. That is the formula to get the price elasticity of demand. The price elasticity of demand is actually telling us the responses of quantity demanded by the consumer to the changes in price of a particular product in the market. The coefficient of the price elasticity of demand is usually denoted as E subscription D. That means ED, capital E, small letter D. That is the coefficient that we usually use to denote the price elasticity of demand. Since changes in demand in price and quantity usually move in opposite direction from the law of demand that says the higher the price, the quantity demanded, and from there we discover that there is a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. Therefore, that means the formula will attract a negative sign. That is where the negative sign is being introduced to the formula of price elasticity of demand. Why? Because of the negative relationship between price and the quantity demanded. Therefore, all the coefficients of the price elasticity of demand will always attract a negative sign. In the process of calculation, there may be a kind of change that the negative sign will be cancelled, but initially at first it must be reflecting. Now, we have some values that we use to represent the price elasticity of demand to know the degree at which there is a kind of changes in the price. One, we have if the elasticity of demand after calculation is equal to 0, we say the demand is perfectly inelastic. That means the demand does not change at all when the prices changes. Then the demand curve of that particular product will be totally vertical. 2, we can have a case whereby the elasticity of demand will be between 0.0 and 1. That means it will be something like 0.1, 0.2, up to 0.99999, and so on. In that case, we say the demand is inelastic. That means the changes, the responsiveness of the demand to changes is not that much, it's somehow minimal. It means the percentage change in demand is very small, and in that case we say the demand is inelastic. But in the case whereby the elasticity of demand is equal to 1, that is, after the calculation using the formula, we discover that the changes, the answer is equal to 1. In that case, we say the demand is unit elastic. That means there is a kind of equal changes in quantity demanded and price. For example, the price increases by 15%, then the quantity demanded also increases, reduced by 20%. In that case, where the increase in price leads to the same quantity of reduction in quantity demanded, in that case we say the demand is unit elastic, because the answer we always get for such situation is 1. And another one, we can have a case whereby the elasticity of demand will be greater than 1. When the elasticity of demand is greater than 1, for example, there is a kind of increase, 10% increase in price, leading to 30 or 40 or 20% reduction in quantity demanded. In such situation, we say the demand is elastic, because the quantity demanded is greater than the change. The change in quantity demanded is greater than the change in price, and that will make the elasticity of demand to be greater than 1. And those are the values that we can use to attach to the elasticity of demand, that is the coefficient of that elasticity of demand. Then the types of price elasticity of demand, just related to what we just explained. We have elastic demand, we have inelastic demand, we have unitary demand, we have perfectly elastic demand, and we have perfectly inelastic demand. When we say demand is elastic, just like we explained that demand for a product is price elastic if a given percentage in price gives rise to a greater percentage in quantity demanded. For example, a price of a product increased by 10%, and that increase of 10% in price leads to 20% reduction in quantity demanded. In such case, we say the demand is elastic. That means the responses of demand, of quantity demanded, is so high and more than the changes that happen to price. For example, from this figure above, the original curve of that demand is P1 and Q1. That means when price is P1, the quantity demanded is Q1. When price reduced to P2, the quantity demanded is P2, and the other one. But we can discover that the changes between P1 and P2 is smaller compared to the changes between Q1 and Q2. That means there is a kind of greater changes in quantity demanded in relation to the smaller changes in price. The second one is inelastic. When we say demand is inelastic, that means there is a greater changes in price leads to a smaller changes in quantity demanded. Demand for a product is said to be inelastic if a given percentage in price give rise to a lesser percentage in quantity demanded. That is, when there is a kind of high increase in price, there is a lesser reduction in quantity demanded. In that case, we say the demand is inelastic. This is an example of the graph. We have the graph here, just like the other one, but the difference is that the distance between P1 and P2 is greater compared to the distance between Q1 and Q2, which is just the opposite of the elastic demand we see the other time. And the next one is unit price elastic. We say demand for a product is said to be unit price elastic if a given percentage in price gives rise to an equal percentage change in quantity demanded. That is, 10% increase in price of a particular product leads to 10% reduction in quantity demanded. In that case, we say we have a unit price elastic, and the curve will be of the same size. That means the changes, the distance between P1 and P2 on the curve will be exactly the same distance between Q1 and Q2, showing that the distance between the new price with the old price is the same as that of the